Malaki Branham. It has definitely been, unfortunately, if we're just being honest, a disappointing season for Malaki. With the flashes that he showed last season, I mean, he's even averaging less points than he was last year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I guess more assists. I mean, but those little numbers, I'm not really going to get into those. He's playing a little bit less minutes as well. Um, when I thought about Malachi coming into this season, Ethan, and I was thinking about, okay, what is his role going to be on this team? I was thinking about, okay, somebody who can maybe be, you know, taking close to the most shots off our bench, being a mid range scorer, coming off screens, pulling up off the dribble. We described that as butter coming into
Mm-hmm.
this season because that's really what it felt like. And we even saw a little bit of more development in the summer league as well. But really, that latter half of the season last year, kind of where we saw the flash of Zach playing so well, that kind
Mm-hmm.
of coincided with Malachi, who obviously was kind of thrust into that position because of Trey's injury. But man, all of those things, Ethan, maybe you saw it a little bit at the beginning of the year. I feel like he might have started out a little bit better. Um, but it's just really kind of been a downturn and a struggle since, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think this can be defined as the sophomore slump for Malachi Branham. It has been disappointing. Blah 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 is right. I think I predicted that he'd be around 12 to 15 points a game this season, and if you would just base it on what he did last year, I don't think that's outrageous to say. But you're right; he's dropped in points and dropped in efficiency, and he looks displaced. I don't know what it is, but he's not getting to his spots as easily. He feels like he's in a different role. Um, I don't know the reasoning behind it, but with regardless, he's not playing as well as we would have hoped. And defensively, we knew that was one of his biggest deficiencies, and that really hasn't improved all that much either. So it's really baffling because if you remember back to the preseason and offseason interviews of the other guys, they were being asked like who had the best offseason, and he was the guy they talked about. They were like Malachi Branham has had a great offseason. He's looking forward to showing you guys some new stuff, and it just hasn't translated for him. I'm hoping it's just a shooting slump, and it's affected his confidence and something that he'll turn around going into next season. I'm still like high on his potential, obviously, because of what we've seen in flashes. Um, but I also think it's a good thing that he's in Pop's doghouse a little bit and was benched for a few games for Blake Wesley. I think that that's actually a good thing because how he responds to this will tell us a lot about his character.
Absolutely. And I just mentioned like it felt like he had a much better start to the year. And as I pulled up his game log, Ethan, you can just see the drop off. It's kind of insane. Like, and while these aren't like crazy numbers, this is like what we're expecting kind of on the role of this team. Like if you look at December, yes, there's two offers in there, but every other game is over double digits. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? With even a 19-point game and a close game against the Lakers, you know.
Mm.
Um, and then here we go in January, man. I mean, 2024. Look at this. 2 games over double digits. It's kind of like it's wild. It's been wild to see this.
And in February, so far, not one over seven. Seven's been his highest scoring night. It's I don't know. I don't know what the reasoning behind it is. It could have a little something to do with Keldon Johnson being moved to the bench and Zach
That's
Collins being
true.
moved to the bench.
That's true.
Like as much as we talk about their roles changing and affecting how they've been playing, I guess we do have to say the same for Malachi. Because before he was, I guess at first he was the go-to scorer off the bench with Trey facilitating, um, but now he's not. He's not that guy. I feel like he's being asked to do more facilitation and less isolation scoring or coming off of screens, which is really what he's best at.
Yeah, and he's doing more spot up shooting. And
Yes.
that's not necessarily his strength whenever it comes to shooting either.
So we flopped him and Blake because what's Blake's a pretty solid facilitator. He doesn't need the ball. He's not a great scorer. So it makes sense strategically to play him next to Keldon and Zach rather than Malachi at times.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not out on him and maybe we've mentioned this before. obviously not everybody that we have on this team right now moving forward is going to be with us forever.
Mhm.
And I'm sure, a lot of these young guys, they may end up getting moved somewhere if the fit isn't right, or depending on if we draft somebody next year, depending on how many picks we have.
Mm.
Um, and that person just, comes in and is already ahead of somebody like maybe who we're discussing right now. I hate to put it that way. I don't want to look too far ahead because with the flashes we saw last year, and I love how the lights just went off, that's just perfect. But at least you can still see me.
Yeah,
Um,
you look great.
Thank you. Um, I'm not completely out on him, but if this continues, maybe there's a change of scenery. I don't want to get too far ahead. I think he can definitely still be developed with the flashes that I've seen. He's 20 years old, his second year in the league on this team. There's so much context to that as well. Um,
Mhm. I think for him, it comes back to what Aaliyah said right here. I'm gonna pull up her comment.
go for it.
Malachi needs to stay confident.
I
I
think
think
it's a
that's
good
it.
way
He's
to
to
put it.
stay confident, and he needs to, in the off season, work on spot up shooting and facilitation and defense, obviously.